It normally takes in excess of 12 months to organise a conference on this scale, and to say that your team have done this in less than 2 months, basically showing up the so-called professionals, it shows the real strength the service uses, and it's an inspiration to all of us, really. It shows that it can be achieved.
Towards the end, we'll pass the credit on to where it really sits.
With your grouping of different, say, BME or different sort of groups, and you fielding the information out, say consultations out, then effectively it's going to be coming back through the network, and you're going to be passing this information on, hopefully to engender change in services. You are going to be implicitly the service user voice. And why is it such a bad idea anyway? Because in coming together, aren't we hoping to have more change, more effective and meaningful, lasting change more quickly by joining together?
Thanks very much. I think what we were trying to illustrate is we don't want a few individuals to claim they are the voice. If people need to be discussing what it's like to be a Muslim woman on an acute ward, we'll ask women who are Muslim on acute wards to have their voice. It may be we support them to get their voice heard. What we want to move away from is that a few individuals can actually have the authority of a huge diverse community, and we have got to work together.
How will young people be supported in the networks? That hasn't really been made very clear. I wouldn't really know what to do. If I was going to go out right now and try and put together something like this, or try to just to get somebody to hear my voice, then how would I do it?
Okay. Well, we won't answer that here and now. I mean, I for one think you've done an exceptionally good job today so far, and I think the short answer is there are lots of things that we can do to offer training and support, and just talking to people who've already done it. From my own point, I started hearing and seeing things when I was 14, and there was nothing you could do about that except go to your GP and get pumped full of drugs. If that had happened 10 years later, I might have been able to talk to hearing voices now.
It's still the same now.
Yeah. Well, we'll get more info. I mean,
nothing's changing. It's just more people are finding out that nothing's changing. That's all.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's fair to say that not a huge amount has changed in some respects, but the fact that you can come here and say openly that you hear and see things, the fact that people can gather together on a national level, is something that we really can build on.
But would we be saying that if non-mental health users were in the room too? That's the difference.
I think the short answer, we need to continue discussion, is we need to provide resources for youth so that you can be the chair of a subgroup to go and kick arse.
Thank you. Alan.
The network will be only as good as the link between people on the grassroots. And one of the things I always find, when I go into wards, when I go and visit people on the wards, actually their connection to the youth movement is miles away. Yeah, they don't know about the youth movement, they don't care about the youth movement. All they care about is stop being injected in the bum, stop being thrown into seclusion, stop being the right thing taken away. And I really think that if we actually say that we want a user movement or a user network, we've got to actually listen to the people who are actually not in the network. That's why I think we need to think about having local strategies locally. Now we develop strengthen networks locally first, then build up. And then we've got trust. So I think that the whole history, things that we've been avoiding, I think, talking about, is trust. Trust and representation. So I think that's a very important issue. Because I think actually, if I'm going to have someone representing me at NEME or whatever, I want to trust them.
We seem to be doing two things today. We're both designing how the network's going to work and how we're going to have parallel threads of youth or whatever else flying through it at the same time. And the second part of what we're doing is trying to work out what that network will do when it's there. If we're implementing both of those things at once, can we have an assurance that when the network is in place and information is flowing through it and requests are flowing through it, if those requests at that time are not the same as what we're saying today, that the people who are already employed there, making the things we're saying today happen, will not be offended when they're asked to do something different and will allow themselves to be influenced and controlled by the elected representatives.
Well made, and a lot of this we will not know what the effect of this network is until we start doing that, and I think it's entirely reasonable that it will develop over time.
The question I'd like to ask, and I'm sure others do, what's today about, what's our answers, and where do we move forward?
Right, is there a commitment from management to listen to young people's views and act on them? Can they prove that they will take notes? Not treat it as a paper exercise, and their filing system is the bin, because young people don't know who to trust and what part of the system to trust.
I think the point is that the people who experience mental distress we're a very diverse community. Some of us have learning disabilities and therefore will need support that's suitable for them to have their voice heard. But what's interesting for me is that you've got a room full of people who are prepared to sit and listen and support. And that room full of people is us here today, and perhaps we need to be showing professionals that they need to learn from us. And so I think there's many mediums we can use to get our voice heard, and a network should ensure that it's robust and forceful in ensuring that everybody's voice is heard in an appropriate way. And if people don't want to listen, we need to be explaining that that's really a problem they have, not us. The other question about how do we get management to listen, well, there's many ways, some more pleasant than others, and some tactics you use first of all, and if they don't work, you go on to other tactics. And it's not, I think again, we listened to you, and maybe it wasn't easy for some people to speak today, but I feel there are many tactics that we can learn from across this room. All of the people in this room probably have had some experience of not being listened to and determined to go back and get listened to the second or third time. And we need to share that experience with youth and with everybody who needs that experience so that we do get heard by the top bosses. And it's not just the top management, I would actually argue it's government.
In the last 3 weeks, I've been in a number of meetings where people have complained just how difficult it is to get young people to express their views. I've got their names. But seriously, I'm going to be going back to a number of people and saying, it is not good enough to say it's difficult to get young people to speak. It's incredibly easy if you do things properly.
Yes.
And if you listen, and if you respond, and if you make some kind of effort to show that there is any point in people expressing their views.